I'm a spiritual teacher, healer, and writer. And I'll just let you know that the camera and the lights do make me a bit nervous. So I'm just going to take a couple of breaths, and you can do that with me if you want to. Today I wanted to talk about, I feel called to talk about, even though I'm a little bit nervous, about my journey. So the last 2.5-ish years, I have been undergoing a really serious and big transformation. And I went through many waves of very deep pain and suffering. And it's still difficult to put into words, and some parts of it are still difficult to talk about. And I'm sure it will unfold as it's meant to, because I think it's one of those stories that can help people. But for now, I'll say that I was in a lot of deep suffering. I had to radically change my life and my experience, my understanding of my experience of my life. I lost a lot. There was a lot of grief and fear and powerlessness and helplessness and all those horrible feelings that you get into when you have a crisis in your life. Essentially, I think this is what they classify as a dark night of the soul for years. And now I'm going to tell you about an experience that happened to me at one point and go from there. I was in a really deep and serious state of grief. My heart was very, very wounded. I had lost everyone that I knew and loved, and it was just, it was bad. And I felt called to go to the beach, and then when I was on the beach, I felt called to go into the ocean. And I just knew that the ocean would help me, that it wanted to. So with that pain in my heart, I went into the ocean, and it was just this, there weren't many people around, and it was a shallow space. So it was just floating around in there, and I felt I want to say the universe, and I think that that's your higher self. Same thing. I felt my higher self saying, just be with these emotions and let them be. And I felt that the ocean wanted to take them, transmute them with me. And so I let myself cry, and I felt a lot of pain, and my heart was just shattering. And everything went into the water. And after a minute or two, I remember looking up and looking at the shore where I had been, and looking around just generally. And the visual snow, what is classified as visual snow, but is actually, a type of clairvoyance. It's just seeing energy. The visual snow, or the energy that I always see. I wanted to add that because, if you have visual snow, you should know it's not a disorder. It's not. There's nothing wrong with your eyes. But yeah, so I looked around and I saw that, as I usually do. But what I saw and felt and knew all at the same time was that this sparkling pattern of light that I always see was love. And I suddenly realized, fully knew and realized, that everything was made up of love. These same particles that are within everything is love. And it just hit me so fully, oh my God, there's love there, there's love there. I felt I'm literally in a sea of love. And then I was laughing at how ridiculous it was that I ever felt separate from this love, because I was literally standing in it. I looked at the sand and the people and the water, and I saw that it was all the same thing. And when I saw that, I knew, okay, if this is love and this is love, it's all love. But it wasn't very mental. It was just a very like, whoosh, now I know. I guess this is what they classify as these awakening moments, experiences. And my heart was, instead of in pain, there was a kind of joy and relief and softness and beauty and understanding that all is love. All around us is love. That you and I are made up of the same thing. And I understood that there's this essence within everything that is the same, and that essence is love. And within that experience, looking at the water and the different things, you know, my feet and the sand beneath, I also felt this like almost pulling or yearning within that loveness, within the love, the essence. There is a unity that wants to be with you. It's a feeling of like this sand particle, it wants to be with me, and it is with me. And it's what I understand as unity. And so I also felt an amazing oneness that I had never felt before. And it touched me so deeply to know. And it was the first time that I had ever felt any kind of actual like safety, I think, or trust in the universe. It was the opposite of some very damaging beliefs that I had had about the universe, to understand that the universe is love, and it loves me, and the sand loves me, and that guy yelling at you, he doesn't know it, but he loves you. And so ever since then, I've been able to feel this love here, and I feel it within all things, and I can tune into it. It's very intense when it first happens like that, these awakening experiences, and then they are designed to kind of integrate and settle. And you should make a practice of re-experiencing that vibration. You know, it is a practice, all of these things. Enlightenment is not just something that like happens to you and then you're done, you know. So practically what that looks like is when I am, you know, if I'm very low, obviously it's hard to suddenly get into love, but what I learned to do was be like, okay, you know, I feel really crap, I feel really low. And I know that this love is here even if I don't feel it. Because I knew it that day and I know it now. It's a kind of faith for a few moments. And when you have that trust, faith, belief, the love starts to settle in and you start to entrain with it again. And so now I can feel this union and oneness and love whenever I want or need to. And that really shifted things for me, to understand that the universe is a kind of big bowl of love. And when I studied that further, what I understood was that it's a conscious, alive love. And the best word I could come up with for it was, life is loving awareness. That's what it is, and that's what you are. And so now I believe that that's part of my personal growth and purpose or path, is to share this love with you. And maybe that's why I was called to talk about this today, because I think that it is something that we have generally forgotten, you know. I definitely forgot it. And it, you know, there is no judgment or blame for that, okay? And I think within my perception in that period, I eventually understood that there is a core belief that I held, but is also a collective belief, that the universe doesn't have our back, that the universe, when bad things are happening, it's like there isn't this trust in the universe that it's happening for a higher purpose, ultimately to get you to your life intention and fulfill it, which means things like union with yourself and happiness and love and all of the things that we all want. And I feel that we have kind of, not everyone obviously, but within me, in that experience, in those years, I had also disconnected from my heart. I didn't trust my intuition because of what I was going through, you know, and it's understandable. I felt helpless and powerless, and again, there's no judgment for that. But now I get to be one of those people that tell you when you feel helpless and powerless, this love is still here, and it's not conditional to you, that you can really know it and you can really feel it and believe in it. It's just there. And yeah, the realization of these core beliefs that we all share collectively, that which are at its root, these are the ego's, you know, greatest fears and beliefs. Things like, I don't trust in this universe. It fears being unified with that love, okay? Because you do have to let go of those beliefs and stuff that you've built an identity upon. And yeah, I also learned that the only pain, the core pain, is that we feel separate from love. Because when you feel unified with this love, you understand there's a recognition that it is you. And it's, you know, sometimes when I'm in it, there's like, it's the existential grief of ego, even, of having been separated, in the illusion of separation from source itself. And yeah, what ego wants to remember but is afraid to remember because of the fear of consumption and the loss of control, thus, you know, the difficulty to trust in the universe and that it has your back, is a threat that it's going to like die. But the truth is, when you unify with love, and this is what the ego doesn't know, is that you become more of yourself, you know? You become yourself without the pain. That's all that we all really want, you know? Or you may still experience pain. It's not, I shouldn't say that you don't have pain, but there's a beauty and a love because you are really owning and being that higher self who understands the intention of this pain, that it is just a messenger to tell you where you're vibrating at, basically, to tell you what beliefs don't help you. Yeah, so I'll go back to my story for a minute, which is, yeah, so I had that day and I had many revelations, and some of the things I just shared was more of the revelations and awakenings that I had. And that's what I want to share now with people, is this message of love, you know? And to be able to be someone who has like been through the darkest of the darkest, and knowing how when someone says you are love, it can feel like you feel distance from it. It can even be triggering pain, you know, like, fuck that, you wouldn't say that if you knew my story and you were in my shit, you know? And that is the gap that I completely honor, and I now know how to bridge because I had to in order to survive. And I'll get into that more and more as I do more videos and things like that. But yeah, within my personal evolution, I was in that deep pain and I had a lot of suffering, and that led me to having to return to my soul. I was kind of forced to return to my soul because I was going to die. I nearly died a few times, and it was like, no one knows how to help me. No one knows what to do exactly with me. I keep suffering. I keep being on this edge of life and death. And so I had to figure it out. And everything that I share from now on is going to be born from that. And it was so painful, but it absolutely transformed my life, you know? It absolutely transformed everything for me to... Now I know things like life is sacred. For a long time I held a unhelpful core belief about life being futile. And, you know, that pertained to everything. There's no point, a kind of, you know, in a imprint of just like pointlessness and futility. You know, there's no meaning in this suffering. There's no meaning in me and life itself due to the way that I suffered. And then when I was going to die, I had to... I'll go into this in more detail maybe at a different time or in the book I'm writing or both. But I had to stop believing it. Like it was there, but I had to say, okay, I see this belief, but I'm going to choose something different. And I didn't push it away, but I had faith that somehow, I don't know how, I'm going to move through this. And I kept saying that over and over in this night that I had, where I had this ego crash and everything inside of me was shattering and I felt split apart. And my identity was shattering, I think, because this belief was so core to me. And when you have the core imprint, the other beliefs are like branches off of that. And this is like your, you know, a big skeleton of your personality. And it was shattering, and my consciousness doesn't, your ego doesn't like that, rather. And it was the worst night of my life. It was the worst night that I have ever had in my existence. And then I kept asking my guides and stuff, and they kept saying, like, let it go. You don't have to understand this. Just trust, have faith. And I had a teaching event, my very first teaching event, the next day. And I was petrified that I was going to have to cancel, and my dreams weren't coming true, and so that was its own trigger wound as well. And so much was present. But then the next day, I was still alive. And I actually made it to my teaching event, and I did this thing that was my entire dream, one of my entire dreams for a long time. And I felt and understood that life is a miracle, because I had experienced a miracle that night. I experienced me as a miracle, getting through that and surviving, and then getting to go and do what I love, which was just share these messages, and people were listening, and it was so fulfilling. And I was like, oh my gosh, these people just want to like tune into this stuff that is like just happened to me. Like, you know, when you're on your purpose, that's how it feels. It's like it's a gift for other people to be a part of it. It's crazy, and they're thanking you, and you're like, thank you. But yeah, I understood that I was a miracle, and I got it. And I got that life is a miracle, and I got very acutely present, and I was seeing this sacredness behind everything else, the stillness behind all of life, the way that oneness, life, the sacred, it's what I call the sacred, because even that word, but like any words on it kind of take away from it. But it was the opposite of this futility, of the meaninglessness of life. It was to say, like, this is, like, life is perfect exactly as it is. Life is in fact sacred, and you are sacred. It mended any inner child wound I ever had, because I understood, okay, I was always supposed to be treated as sacred. And that's part of my message now as well, is that you are sacred because you are sacred life. Okay, life chose you to exist. And that day I felt the joy of existence, the joy of being. Life is excited to be here. There is an aspect of you within you somewhere. Maybe some days you feel resonant towards it and some days it feels far away. But this aspect of you chose to incarnate because being is joyful. I saw it in the birds that day and it was just extraordinary. And so when I got home from this teaching event, I was so happy and I was feeling fulfilled, and I was crying about how in happiness, about how I had survived and how I finally understood that life was sacred and that I'm sacred. And I didn't believe that life was futile anymore. I can't believe that when I see and feel the way that this life is just here, and just because it's here, it is a gift. Simply because it is here, simply because you are here, you are a gift. There's something extraordinary about you just being here and being alive, and that's why you are here. Okay? It is beyond meaning, it is beyond purpose. It just is. When something is, it just is. And that can kind of hurt your head if you try to figure that out any further. And it's more of a feeling. And so that's part of my message now as well, is that all of life is sacred, and there is a sacredness no matter what you are going through. And it exists even if you don't feel tapped in or tuned into it. It's still there, and it's not going anywhere. It will never leave you. Never. And so I just sat in that feeling that day. And for the next 2 or 3 days, I was very full of light. And, it was amazing. Like, skin issues I had cleared up overnight. I didn't really need to eat because I was just breathing in, taking in so much light. I felt so much space. It was the complete opposite of how I had been feeling for the last 2.5 years. And that's what you'll see from me now. When I'm writing on my blog poems of joy about the joy of life, I'm one of those people now. And I never thought I could be one of those people who is like talking about these like enlightenment kind of stereotypical ideas about spirituality. And actually, it's my truth. It's not spiritual bypassing. It's not just jumping to a high vibration. It is me. It was the return to my soul. And we all will return to our soul and find this, but a unique tone that is, the song of your soul. For me, it's things like life is love and sacred, and life loves you, and beauty, and all these amazing things. But for you, it's going to be your beautiful tone. And yeah. What I learned most of all, I think, was that everything that you need is inside of you. Everything that you are like striving for and yearning for is inside of you. I did intend 2.5 years ago, before this started, I intended to know enlightenment and to know my soul. I said to the universe, I want to actually touch my soul. I don't want to just live my life and not know it. I want to embody it, hear and feel it. I want to know what that limitlessness is. I want to get that. And then everything went to shit so that it could purify what was in the way of that. And now I'm one of those people, but I won't forget where I was, so I can help you. I have this amazing deep compassion. I understood that one of the only things I understood about what I've been through is that there needs to be a bridge, and that bridge is compassion. and empathy and the capacity to say, I've been where you've been, and now I'm in this higher field as well. And I do swing back into lower stuff as well. We all do. And that's where I'm learning all about peace. I actually feel peace now, and I learned that you can feel peace even when you feel terror or rage or something. Because peace is just accepting what is. It's creating this space within you, a lack of resistance, allowing. But I will stop now because it's been a while. But most of all, I think my message is love. You are love. And there will be parts of you that don't want to hear that, and they will react in pain to that. And that pain is telling you that the reaction, the belief that comes up of like, oh man, no, there's no way that's true. That is the belief that is stopping that from being tangibly true for you. Okay, that's something that I learned too. High vibrational messages and stuff aren't trying to hurt you. When you hear them, your being goes, ooh, time to purify, and it brings up what's in the way of this belief being true for you. The belief of you are love or something. So I'm going to leave you with that. You are love. No matter what you think or feel or believe, there's no escaping that you are made of love, and we are all made of love. The most powerful thing in the world that you can do, say, or be is I